And she didn't answer because it was 2 a.m. But she did send me an email. And she said, in the morning, when he wakes up, ask him for the bag that he never uses and check the front pocket. I'm like, okay. So I woke up in the morning and I said, go get the bag you never use. And he's like, what do you mean, the bag? I don't know, the bag you never use. Go find it. He's like, okay, I never use this bag. He said, open it up, front pocket. Opens up, passport's right there. Because the bag you never use is the bag you only use for travel that you put your passport in. That's clever. Notebooks, notebooks. Notes out. Graham, welcome. Welcome. Liam was distraught that you might not be here, and I am happy to see that you in fact are here.
Well, I was snowed in for about a week. So.
Also a heads up, we today being Wednesday, next class on Friday, we'll be doing the blood lab, in which you will get to determine your blood type. Did I already mention this last class? Yeah. Dangers, things. So we will probably do it in the classroom, but there'll be a portion that you can go out and look at it under the microscope if you want. And you'll have to wipe up here and there's clean stuff. Main reason to do it in here is why? Did I go over this last time?
Are we going to be pretty?
Yeah, so, okay, I didn't go over it. Okay, so here's what you need to know. I was the first teacher to have someone faint while doing the blood lab. I'd done it for years and they had to. My telling you this increases the risk of you getting that side effect, but on the other hand, I've had someone faint 3 times in 3 different classes, and one of them, they got a really bad concussion because they hit their head on a desk as they went down. So what I have done, having learned from this, is you do it sitting down, and that way you just slump. People with their laptops out, those should be away. You should be, as I'm talking, getting out your notes so that you're ready to go. And while I'm talking, I should let this load. And so, blood lab. Just so you know, now that I've told you about the side effect and increases the risk, it's actually quite rare. I had done it for years in biology 12 and nobody had ever fainted. But fainting at the sight of blood is a normal part of a fight or flight reaction, because fight or flight is misnamed. There's actually 4 F's. It's fight, flight, faint, and then another one which I can't say in the classroom. All of those are involved with that particular nervous system reaction. And in all of those, you are getting ready to either fight or escape a bear. Sometimes, if you have a threat, fainting and getting out of the way actually is a survival technique. And so your body has that built in. Some of you will get that if you see the sight of blood. It's also something if you're planning to become a doctor and that happens, you can also get over it. There's lots of different ways. It's not the end of your doctor career if that happens. But I want to make sure nobody gets a concussion. That's really what I'm worried about. The other part is if someone does manage to faint, stay away from them. Let me know. I may ask if you're a friend of theirs, you can help. When you wake up after fainting, it is completely normal to have not remember where you are, why you're there, or what happened to cause you to faint. It's like your brain just does a reset. And so you're booting from cold, and it'll take you a minute. A health center, we usually advise when this is happening, again, due to me, because I've had it 3 times, so that if you need to, you can go there. I've had a student, one of the times, the student just woke up and goes, yeah, this happens to me all the time, and they just continued on with the lab. Another time, it was really disoriented. I don't mind either way. It's not a failure or anything like that. So you can do that. Just be aware of it. So we're going to do it here sitting down. You are going to then have to clean your tables and wipe them off really well because there'll be blood involved. Because there's blood involved, you must treat this lab like your blood is HIV positive. Blood is not a joke to flick at someone because who knows what's on there. Nobody has given consent to share your fluids or any other moist products of your body. Just saying that sounds gross. Please don't do that. But you will be literally puncturing a hole. We have the same system that they use if you're diabetic, where you have to do this all the time to test your blood in some cases. And so it's actually relatively painless. You just go chunk, you squeeze it out onto a drop, you mix it with an antigen, and you'll be able to test for type A, type B, and type RH, one of the types that we're not discussing really a lot in the class. But Don't take this, I'll get your question in a moment, if you just save it until I'm overall done. See it. Don't take this as your blood type. It's a high school lab with high school products from a company that makes products for high schools. It's relatively good, but I wouldn't want to bet my transfusion results on it because it's not medical grade. So it has been wrong, the stuff can be old, who knows. But what I would, between now and Friday, ask your parents what your blood type is, because it would be really cool to see if it corresponds, and then you can actually see, oh, this one should react. And then you can see what the reaction looked like, and it's much easier to compare if you're doing it. Really like how you chose this moment while I'm talking. Nice. Now, questions. You had a question right away?
Oh yeah, so how again are you gonna get the blood out of them?
It's a, I don't know what we have this year, but usually it's a little plastic cylinder that has a needle inside of it that you cannot see. You press the plastic cylinder to your skin and you press a button, and the button causes the needle to go chunk chunk really quickly. And then what I find works really good is a technique. Some people just bleed easier than others. I'm a high bleeder. I often don't have to do this. But you just sort of just roll the blood down. You'll get a drop, put a drop in, use it, get another. And then you can do that as many times as you want. If you're right-handed, I'd recommend doing your left hand. If you're left-handed, I recommend doing your right hand just so you do it. And then clean it up. It's a very small one. The company that makes the kit for high schools actually gives you literally a piece of metal that goes down to a triangle and you're supposed to stab yourself. I have never felt that went well, so we got the ones that the diabetics use because those are used by people who have to get blood samples like all the time. And I mean, it's a quick little sting, and then you have the blood and you can check your blood types. It's not bad at all. There's no pre-lab for it. This is the warning for the lab. You don't have to use your lab book. Also, if you're wondering how you did in your quizzes, the day after everybody left, I got horribly, horribly ill. And I started to recover yesterday. So I have marked nothing. The most I did is I played about 3 hours of Cyberpunk 2077 while in a feverish haze, which has billionaires and AI in it doing weird, bad things. I'm not sure I can tell the difference between the game and reality anymore. But, that being said, I'm now planning to stick myself into here this afternoon and be back down here for prep and mark all your stuff in the afternoon as soon as I can. Mark should do. If you want to know how you did show up, and I'll probably mark yours earlier than everybody else. Any other questions about that? So, there's no pre-lab other than ask your parents what your blood type is. They should know. They often take it when you're born, and they figure out your blood type, so they might know from records from that. No, they don't know, then you have a chance to find out. But it'd be useful if you can find out. Most people turn out to be A positive. No, O positive, I think, and then A positive is 2. Most people are Rh positive, and Rh factor is a whole separate gene. So we have AB, codominant, and O. That's on one locus. And then Rh is a completely separate gene that also puts antigen in the blood. The reason we don't do it is we have to do dihybrid crosses every time. It might get irritating. Any other questions? Excellent. Oh, yes, question.
What's the difference between like a positive and a negative?
About 20%, no, 15? What did the really strict parents say to their child when they came back and they had type B negative blood? Why not A positive? A plus. A negative just means you don't have it. I can do that quickly right now. View, zoom, page width. So we were, if I'm looking at this accurately, we were here,
Yes.
and we hadn't quite finished. View, zoom, page width. So I will answer your, why is this? I don't want it to auto hide. There we go. Your body makes antibodies.
Mr. Dufa,
Yes,
can I run back and look for this because I don't have it in my binder? But I know I have the sheet.
I know you have the sheet. Before you run back, just let me very quickly, I did organize some things here, see if I have an extra copy. I think at this point everybody has taken my extra copies. I print more than I need. And was lost. That's not it. Do you have someone in class that you could get the notes off?
Yeah.
Because if you get out a piece of paper and just draw things. Oh, here's one.
Thank you.
So start where we are, and then you could
And then
just,
I'll fill it in.
yeah, well, you could also just peel it apart and restaple it with the area that we're onto.
Okay.
Okay, your body makes antibodies against foreign antigens. One of your immune responses is you get invaded by a virus or a bacteria, and they have coats. And an antibody is just something that binds to something that feels wrong. And I say feels because, of course, nothing in your body has eyes. It's all chemical reactions. So they bond to things. When you were developing, your immune system went through a startup process that eliminated all of the cells that would bind to your cells. Because if you did that, that would completely eliminate you. Ooh, Mr. Wismer. Oh, he's going to be gone way before I can do it. You hear me. And I can't even see.
You better do the other room. That's where the wedding features how like I'm eating everything.
Let's go there after. So after that time, once that's all been eliminated, you don't attack yourself. So there's no antibodies if you're type A for A. There's no antibodies for B if you're type B. If you're type AB, you have none of those antibodies. But if you're type A and you receive type B as a transfusion, then you will have lots of those, and they're going, I've never seen this before. What antibodies do is they attach to it, they clump it, and their entire purpose is to mark it for the rest of your immune system to slow it down, and for to clot up and just get rid of it. If you have an infusion of that, then your blood will clot in your veins, and you will have, what is it called when you have a clot in your heart?
Heart attack?
Heart attack. Nick, you put your laptop entirely away. And what is it called when you have it in your brain?
A stroke.
Stroke. And if you have it in a muscle, you have a muscular infarction. How many of you have seen the TV show House MD? Only a couple of you. He has a limp, and he takes pain meds all the time as a central point of the show because of how much it hurts. He had that purportedly in the show. The reason his leg is because he had that and went undiagnosed, so they didn't actually clear it out, and his muscle died. If you have that all over your body at the same time, obviously you're not going to survive that process. However, if you are type AB blood, you recognize both types. So you can take from A, you can take from B, and everybody can take from type O. If you know someone who's type O, be good friends with them. Keep them around. You never know when you're going to need their blood. This is why Ms. Walensky is the assistant from Privet House. When going through resumes, she's O negative blood. So if I'm ever in a really bad accident, I know where I can get all of my blood. I can get it from Ms. Walensky. That's as much of the immune system we're going to do. They get attacked, they get cleared out. Rh factor, to answer your question, is just on top of that. So you will have a set of genes, say, because we're about to do it. So we'll do it as an example. If you have mom as type AB, then there's two genes that mom has. She has A and she has B. And let's say you have dad. Dad is type B. What genes do I put in for type B?
B and B.
I can put B and B. And I can put B and O. Because it's a recessive trait. Sorry, O is a recessive trait. So if you have the genetics of B and O, then you're just type B. Your phenotype is type B. You don't know you have the gene for type O. And then you can see that all the different types of children you can get. So you have a 50% chance of having a type B child, a 25% of having a type A, and a 25% of having a type AB. But if you're this type, then you have 50-50 of AB or B. Type A is impossible. But you don't know which type you are just based on your blood type. If you're type B, you have no idea. You would have to look back. Now, if you know the types that your children are, if you are type B but one of your children turned out to be type A, then you go, oh, I must be Karen, and you can work it out that way. The RH factor was just one that they figured out afterwards. RH comes from the rhesus monkey. And you either have it or you don't, and you have two copies. So you can be RH positive, RH negative, and if you are this, you are RH positive, because the negative just is a lack and it's recessive to the positive. We don't tend to write them that way, but your genes can come in either variety. Most people are positive, and we would just say that's the RH factor, RH factor. Someone else is positive might be like this. And so two people who are positive, if I change that example, you could get a child RH positive, a child RH positive, a child who's RH positive, and you have a 25% chance of having a child who's RH negative. RH factor was discovered. Well, they knew it existed because once they figured out the ABO typing system, roughly 15% of cases in which they gave someone a transfusion, they still died. And they didn't know why. And so they theorized there must be another factor, and eventually they found it through research with rhesus monkeys. Yes? Rhesus, like rhesus monkeys. So it's literally named after the monkey that they did the research to figure out what it was.
Thank you.
So it just means rhesus. It's just an arbitrary name. Like, what does it mean? How many of you play tennis? What does it mean if you have a score of love?
0.
You have 0. Where does that come from? An egg. Le'uf. And so it just got passed down le'uf until English people started saying love. And then some people forgot where it came from. RH just seems arbitrary. It just comes from the rhesus monkey, and nobody's bothered to change it. They could have called it type C, but they didn't. And it's completely separate. So this system and this system are different gene locations. So you can have the gene, one from your mom, one from your dad, of either A, B, or O. You can't have RH in that. That is a whole separate gene. So then you can do a dihybrid cross if you wanted to know your full odds of getting a different blood type. Does that answer your question? Excellent. So now let's do example 2. Example 1. We're going backwards today. Okay. The father is type AB, the mom is A, the child is type O. Are there any conclusions to be drawn? Using Punnett squares, prove any conclusion that you have. Go. Write things down. Punnett squares, the blood types. Graham, question?
I didn't have a question.
I thought you put up your hand for a second. Did you put up your hand?
Sort of.
Well, maybe I quarter my eye. I'm also still slightly ill. I could be hallucinating. Maybe you're all not really here right now,
I
and
was
I'm
just gonna
teaching
say
to an
it's
empty room.
Probably not the father's.
Why do you say that?
Because the child is type O, but neither is another type O.
Well,
Or the mom is AO, but.
mom could be AO. You don't know for sure, but could be.
Yeah, but she still can't be. The child couldn't be.
Right.
Child could
So you should be able to deduce this just from looking at it, but I want you to prove it with the Punnett squares. So do the 2 Punnett squares that you would need to do to prove this. And why do we need 2 Punnett squares? AA and AO. So the reason we need 2 is because mom is either AA or AO. Finish them off. I'm going to quickly do a 10th and then I'll ask people for the other ones. It's not impossible. Mm. Mm. E-block, attendance. Aiden, hold it, what? It says attendance has already been taken. That's like days ago, so.
I'm so close to accidentally writing up ABBA.
Oh, I should play ABBA in the background. There we go. Okay, just say here or present so I can do a quick. Aiden. Louder. Excellent. Here or present. Excellent, thank you. Arnie. Bo.
Present.
Graham.
Here.
Grayson.
Present.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Layla. Liam.
Here.
Murray. Matthew.
Yeah.
Miyabi. Nick.
Here.
Noah.
Yeah.
Rachel. Rose. Violet.
Yeah.
Yuma. And I still don't have your name on this. This is a completely separate app than the school system, which means I won't be randomly asking you questions today. I should probably correct that.
Purposefully asking questions.
Okay, Liam Baker. What do I write here for the dad?
I wrote AB.
Excellent. And then how would you fill in these boxes?
I did AA, another AA. Yeah.
Below?
Yeah.
Okay.
AA. And then there's an AB and an AB.
While I'm going through this, I'm going to ask someone for this one. Below, put down the phenotypic ratio. That would probably be the most useful thing. And how would I fill in this one? Violet? Excellent. Better. Phenotypic. Phenotypic ratio, please. For this one, Noah. 2 to 2. Well, we would simplify that. What would we say? 1 to 1. And 1 to 1 for what?
AA and
AB, but not AA. Because of the phenotypic, what type are you? You're not AA, you're type A. Because you can't tell from phenotype, so they would just say, okay, we should get 50% A, 50% AB, 1 to 1 ratio. And, ooh, what happened there? And Yuma, phenotypic ratio here. 2 to 1? To 1. Excellent. And what is the 2? A. AB. So, what conclusions have you drawn?
The mother.
But hands. Yes?
The mother adds an O.
The mom did add an O gene. What conclusion are you drawing?
That it shows the right one.
This one. What type is the child?
It's not possible.
What type is the child? No, what blood type is the child?
A and B.
Oh, no. Like right here. Child is type O. Can this pairing produce a type O? No. So, what conclusion would you draw?
That is not the dad.
That is not the dad. Well, straight to dad. You are not the father. Any other conclusions? Adopted? Those are probably the two most likely. However, there is there are some not likely but possible.
Mutation.
There could be a mutation. That's rare, but sure, mutation. Mutations do happen rarely. And another, I think this has only been observed in women, but there's no reason why it couldn't have been observed in men. I know of only 2 cases. One poor woman, as part of a Republican program to kick more people off of receiving money if they were poor, if you had children, the state had a policy by which you could get a bit of money per month to help feed the children if you were under a certain income. And in this particular state, they then added a policy to that you had to prove the children were biologically yours first. It adds an extra step. Less people are to do it. Saves the state money if less people do it. This woman put in her blood type, put in her children's blood type, and the children came back as not hers. And to be clear, she gave birth to them. Everybody agrees she gave birth to them. There was no mix-up in the hospital. That was their first thought. The state just denied her and didn't tell her the results of the blood test. She eventually got a lawyer, and they demanded the results. The blood test showed that the father was indeed the father, but the children just weren't related to her, but they were related to her sister, who she didn't have. She doesn't have a sister. And it turns out she was a chimera. So in the womb, there were these fraternal twins, and at some point, instead of developing separately, they merged. So genetically, her ovaries and her were her sister, or her, depending on how you do it, but her blood was her. So if you did a blood test, they came back as a different person than if you tested her eggs. And it turns out different parts of her body were tested differently, which was a wild thing to happen. It's incredibly rare. So there are some very, very rare things. But adopted, or you are not the father, sure. Or maybe also not the mother. Maybe they have an understanding. Just sort of picked up children around that needed parents because they were abandoned in the park. And they thought they needed them. Okay, a child is born blood type A, the mother's blood type AB, the father's blood type B. Are these the likely biological parents?
No.
Any conclusions?
Could be.
Parent blood type.
Loads, loads.
Science.
Okay, I'm going to call a couple people up just to fill in the parents. On one, fill in the parents, the other, don't fill in the middle. I'll call other people up to do that. First 2 up, Grayson. And Bo.
I knew it.
Right. Who needs points here? Ooh, Arnie. You can fill the inside of one once they're done. And anybody else need points? No, you got 11 points. Jamie. Well, the most number of points.
You're not supposed to put it in the middle.
Liam's winning
O be
by
first?
6 points.
Yo, wait, I'm gonna race this John.
Yeah,
Maybe
you're
O
winning.
B.
You have 18
O would be
points.
first.
Then
No, B's
second
not.
place person.
B's first
Oh no,
because
second
it's
place
dominant. It is?
Graham
Yes.
and Aiden with 14. Hold it. No.
Yeah, wait, I never get called.
Wait a minute. Noah has 16. Maybe it's also that I can't see. Orville and Liam at 18. Noah at 16. Graham and Ada at 14. Matthew, Naomi, Bo, 12. Grace and Violet, Nick at 11. Jamie at 9. Arnie at 9. Need to count you guys up.
I can answer your question. He does more random. It is random, like a lot more. I feel like you're randomly selected at a higher rate.
I am randomly selected quite often. I just want to know when I think.
Below,
You're the favorite.
give me the phenotypic ratio in percent. And I'm going to ask percent. For the first one, Miyabi. Oops. A, B, 50%. And B, 50%. And then for the next one, Noah.
Is it 50, 25, 25?
Yeah, 50 what?
50B.
50B. 25 O. So that, yeah. So when you see an O, that's recessive. So it just becomes A. And then the last one would be maybe. Ah, come on. A, B, 25%. And the child is type A. So, any conclusions to be drawn about this with the child? Yeah.
It's possible, but unlikely.
No, it's
Decently likely.
it's decently likely. Like it's possible. And if they had 7 kids in a row, type A, like that's just how odds work. Like if you have any individual scale, if you're flipping a coin and you flip it 1,000 times, how many times do you expect heads or tails?
50-50.
50-50. But if you flip it 10 times, how many times do you expect heads? Yeah, you can. How many of you have ever played Risk? Rolling 6-sided die, and you get like 5 6s in a row, and you're like, wow, what are the odds? And the thing is, if you keep doing it, the odds are it happens eventually. So if they had 7 children, all type B, I would say, yeah, it's probably low, but on the other hand, it's easily possible. However, we can make a conclusion. Given that that is type A, what conclusion can we make with these 2 Punnett squares? The conclusion is not about the child, but about the parents. Yeah?
He's Theo.
Yeah. He's stinky. Then he's stinky. These are the parents. So even if you don't know, oh, I don't know if I'm blood type A, but am I AA or AO? Well, if you know the blood type of your offspring and you know your background, then you can actually work it out. Because if you have a child that's born between the 2 of you and they are type A, then you go, oh, I must have an O antigen that's recessive in order for this to happen. And so you can work out your genotype in addition to your phenotype. So for this one, we know that that one must be wrong based on the results. Excellent. Now on Laurie. I don't think Maury, is Maury, you are not the father still on TV?
Yeah, I've seen it on TikTok.
It was a staple of 2000s television. You'd get a bunch of people and you'd have someone come up and like, I don't know who the father is. My name's Betty Ann Ray. Just to be clear, I picked my own mom's name, so I'm not insulting someone. My mom's name is not Betty Ann Ray, but it is Betty Ann. So I don't know, 2 names. And they'd say like, I don't. Now nowadays they do DNA testing. But for a very long time, blood typing was all they had to go on. People were convicted on blood type alone. Once DNA evidence came around, they retested some cases, and they had a lot of cases in which they found out, hey, the killer's blood type was type B, the person we convicted was type B, they had all this evidence against them, but then when we did DNA testing, it turns out, oh, we got the wrong person. It is only shows you the odds. It doesn't show you for certainty, and even DNA testing is not 100% certain. There's always error in any particular lab. But this, unlike eye color, which I've mentioned before, we've used it as a dominant recessive, but there's way more complicated things that go on with eye color. But A-B typing is fairly straightforward. There's A, and there's B, and there's O, and that's pretty much it. So we can figure out something here. Which of these four guys is the father? Who cannot be the father? And who is the most likely father, just based on the odds? Gentlemen? Use as many of these as you need. You shouldn't need all of them, actually. But we got Dave, type A, John, type B, Tom, AB, and Rex, who's type O. Betty Ann Ray, the mom, is type B homozygous. We do know that from her family history. What does that mean? BB, homozygous. The child is type AB. Prove with Punnett squares who could be the father and who is the most likely father and who is unlikely to be the father. Hold it, did I start recording for everybody who's not here? Woo! Yes, I did.
It's just all A. The child's name. It's John.
It is John. It's John and Dave.
Or sorry, not it's Dave.
It's Dave. Dave is the father.
Dave has to be the father. It's literally.
Save the way.
Trust Dave is the father.
Do I get something wrong? Because Dave is A, and the mother's B, so it's BB and AA. Which just means AB.
Trust, it's definitely.
How many Punnett squares do we need for Dave? 2. So, Dave 1. Dave 2. How many do we need for John? 2. J 1. That's not a good J. J 1. J 2. How many do we need for Tom? 1 Tom. And Rex? 1. Excellent.
I think Betty Ann's the father.
Betty Ann. Well,
It's definitely
we are rapidly approaching a time. Well, I don't know how rapidly, where that might actually be true. Because you can take chromosomes out of something and put it into an egg. So there is a chromosomal disease that was cured. They took the egg, fertilized, took out the chromosome that was diseased, and put in a healthy chromosome from a donor. So the child actually had 3 parents.
Were you up to wait?
Because one parent provided 1 chromosome,
Yeah.
and another parent provided 22, and another parent provided 23. That's, theoretically, you could have a child
46 parents.
with 46 parents. That would be wild. And you could have a parent, 2 genetic females have a child, because you could take 23 of one's genes, 23 of the other. It would actually work with female parents a lot easier than males, and I can show you that afterwards, because there's a danger if you have two males in terms of the genetics. Okay, I'm going to call out 6 names. First come, first serve. You can choose which one you're going to do. If you are doing a Dave or a John, make sure you coordinate with the other person as to which one you are doing. And that would be Nick and Arnie and Jamie and Jamie. It called you up twice. You get to do 2. But you also have more points. And Rachel. And Aiden.
It is definitely.
You're good to go, Aiden.
It's not definitely Dave.
It's definitely Dave.
Why is it definitely Dave?
Because his name's Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's
That's
definitely
not-
Dave.
And it says 88%.
Yeah, but other yes, but
The flip.
It's Dave.
it could.
It's either.
It's Dave.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Dave.
Dave doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work well.
We don't know if he's AA. It could also be
The computer can be slow.
50%
I
chance.
think
And
the
then
one
it's
who
the same
can't,
as
I think the
Tom
one who can't be the father is Rex.
It's
and
Dave.
John.
John's
Oh
the
yeah,
dad.
and
John's the dad.
John and Rex cannot be.
Tom
But
can
Dave.
be and Dave can be.
Wait, there's 2.
Yes, there's 2 Daves.
Wait, is Dave?
I'm telling you, bro, it's Dave.
I think it's Dave.
It's either Tom or Dave.
It is 100% Dave.
Yeah, I know. Can I have a pencil?
Do you need help erasing anything? or-
No, I just did.
Dude, I'm getting this.
It's Dave.
What?
It's either Dave
Oh, hold it. Are you
or
doing?
Tom.
No, keep going. Yeah.
Matthew sharpened the
Yeah.
pencil so sharp. I just did it again, bro.
Traditionally, mums are on the left and dads are on
All
top.
the guys.
So it confused me. You can do it either way. It doesn't matter. Because practically it doesn't make a difference. It's just a matter of when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, you've. But no, you're good.
What? Bro, I gotta erase one sec. Oh, my fault.
What?
Oh my
He
god.
says class is different every single day.
Yes, but I mean, like, because we talked about different things every single time, so it's more exciting. Because in normal class, we talk about the same subject.
So true, also.
Oh.
Like math
Like,
class.
we went from incest
I think it's just.
to now multiple
yeah,
fathers. Like, it's different every single time.
That's true. I don't know if that's a review I would want on Google Maps of any kind.
I think I'm
This is a
gonna
great
review-
class. We went from incest to multiple fathers. But on the other hand, I do
I'll
like that
put
it's
that on the
interesting.
front review. This teacher is my science teacher. He makes class so fun.
I saw your Alice House review. I thumbs downed it.
What?
Wow. You're awful.
Also keep in mind, honorary privet.
I'm not honorary privet, stop.
Yeah, you are.
Never.
Yep.
Nice.
He gets he does.
I would
You're
rather
one of my
die.
grand students.
I would rather die.
Whoa. The term legacy
Yep.
is weird.
And I have a grand nephew too.
Who?
Matthew Harris.
Oh, yeah. That is true.
Wait, what?
I was.
Matthew's dad
Yeah.
was cool.
Okay, if I can get your attention. Who, first of all, let me know, are there any of these that are incorrect? Who cannot be the father?
John.
John. So the child is AB, and it looks like John has no AB. So John is eliminated.
Rex.
John is either extremely happy or extremely sad.
It's Dave.
Anybody else who can't be?
Rex.
Rex. Good old type O.
Rex mode.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
And so who can be?
Dave.
Dave.
Dave
It's Dave. It has to be Dave.
or Tom?
Tom's
Now,
dies.
if we were to do a phenotypic ratio, we have a 50% AB. The child is AB, correct? Yeah, that's what I set up. What are the odds for Dave for type AB? Not 100%. Because do we know which one of these Dave is? No, so you have to pretend he's in sort of a quasi-quantum state. He could be either. So it could either be 50% or it could be 100. So what you do is, you just pretend it's 8 and it's 6 out of 8, which is, what is that as a chance? 75%. 75% AB. However, so who's the most likely father? Dave.
Dave.
But is that a conclusion you would like? Oh, it's automatically Dave?
Yes.
No. Even if this was as low as 25%, if it's possible, that means it's reasonably possible. You don't really know. It is not, to use a legal standard, I wouldn't say it's beyond a reasonable doubt. There's a reasonable doubt as to who the father is. We should probably do some more testing.
It's Dave.
It's actually John ahead of me.
John, Aiden? So you wouldn't want to go that far. However, back when we were using this for criminal investigations, and we were investigating what was the killer's blood type, people were convicted based on those percentages. Because you're convicted on circumstantial evidence all the time. A lot of people say, well, it was circumstantial evidence. Yes. That's all they need to convict you. All they have to do is make it beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you are ever under investigation and the police wish to talk to you, even if you're not under investigation, what is the first thing you do? If you happen to have a lawyer that you can call right away, I am impressed. Call your parents and get a lawyer right away. If you are innocent, you need a lawyer more than anybody else, because you do not know how. Because maybe this is the father, and that one isn't. And to put it into not a paternity but a crime case, if they force you to get your blood type against your will, and you didn't have a lawyer in that process to say, what about anybody else? You will not have any defense necessarily for that. And they might stop focusing on any other potential people because you've just gone along with it. Police are allowed to lie during their investigation. There was a boy in Canada who was convicted. It turned out falsely once we had DNA evidence that we could double check. He was in prison for 52 years, recently released a few years ago. And he was partially convicted due to a confession. He walked into the police room and they had boxes of evidence labeled with his name. When he walked in, the RCMP officer spilled a file accidentally on the table, and it just showed the crime scene. It had his name and it had DNA results that said that he was there. And the RCMP officer gathered it up and said, sorry, ran out of the room. Then they interviewed him, and the boy was like, I'm going to go to jail for so long, I better plead to get a lower sentence. And then the judge in the case rejected the lower sentence. He ended up getting the maximum.
Wait, so they just lied?
Yeah, the files the RCMP officer dropped were faked. And the boxes of evidence were all just empty boxes with his name on it. The Vancouver police got in trouble, not because it was illegal for them to do, but because it was too funny. They wired a man up to a photocopier. So they put a colander on his head with wires that went to a photocopier, and every time they thought he was lying, they'd press photocopy, and a sheet would come out, and it would say you're lying, because that's what they were photocopying, and the guy believed it was a lie detector, and so he just confessed to everything. If you're a police officer, you're allowed to lie, because obviously you can't go undercover without lying, you can't catch a speeder without speeding, you can't catch a liar perhaps without lying, so that is built into the system. So don't assume, get a lawyer, and if you're guilty, confess right away. Like, obviously, confess. Confess if you're guilty. But there's time. There's time to confess with a lawyer to get the best deal possible. If this was science and ethics, we would go through a huge section on it, on why you should do that. But sadly, it is not, so we don't have any more time.
I blame Liam Baker.
Okay. Sex determination and traits.
Oh wow.
Sex determination.
Mm-hmm.
Genetics, sexual,
It's last
Just most of the.
Okay, oh, where'd my magic people go? Liam, great. Random. Violet, what's the genotype if you're genetically male? Like the sex chromosomes. XY. Yeah, not a trick question.
Oh, I thought it was XX.
I thought it
Don't admit. Just shh.
You said confess, though.
Yeah, if you're guilty, confess.
Next question. Graham,
Yes.
what is the genotype if you are genetically female?
XX.
XX. So the only possibilities, Aiden, I'm really close to moving you. Because every time I turn around, I hear a lot of chat. I want focus. And so roughly, how many children should be born by percentage that are male genetically, and how many children should be? It should be 50-50. It isn't, by the way. Roughly speaking, I think it turns out to be like 52 or 53% are born genetically male, which is really high because when you're talking about the human population in our records, statistically, if it's 50-50, at that numbers, it should be 50-50. We don't know if that's on purpose, or like some have theorized that literally the little spermies with a Y chromosome swim faster because they're lighter, because the chromosome's literally smaller, so they can like move faster. So maybe that makes a tiny bit of difference. There is some that have proposed that it makes up for the number of male fatalities in infanthood. And by fatalities, I'm not talking about stillborn or illness or like crib death or any of those. I'm talking about like, for some reason, if you are genetically male and you can crawl, you are more likely to do things like crawl off of ledges, stick forks into outlets, just do. I don't want to say that they're like dumber than genetically female babies, but they're way more accident prone. It starts right at the beginning. They're less likely to properly drink milk. Like they will forget how to drink and start to starve to death because they've forgotten how. And that just happens more often in them, and we don't know why. No idea why. There might be some particular developmental reason, we're not entirely sure. It's a mystery to this day. And it might be that slightly higher percentage just to make up for the ones that don't make it. Luckily today, if you're in a country with a modern medical system and baby proofing, we can eliminate a lot of those dangers. Also, how many of you have taken babysitting courses on how to make sure that babies survive? Oh, nobody in this classroom. One person? How do you put someone to sleep if they're a baby? Rocking? Yes. Oh, sorry. If you're putting them down in the crib, how do you put them in the crib?
Yeah,
Putting them
On their back.
On their back. Do you know why?
Because
Upside
if
down.
they're face down, they can just suffocate in their pillow.
One of the thoughts was that they would suffocate. Turns out they don't. There's this thing called SIDS, called sudden infant death syndrome, and it literally just means they die, and we don't know why. And if you put them to sleep on their back, they're just less likely to do that, and it's not from smothering. If you put them on their front, a lot of babies really enjoy sleeping on their front. They turn their head, they don't smother, but their heart just stops beating, they just die. We don't know why. It's a very small percentage of cases, but it just turns out they found statistically, if you put them to sleep on their back, they don't do that nearly as often.
Also,
So that's why there was a big back to sleep campaign in like 2010 to train everybody in that. And if you take a babysitting course, they'll hammer that home. Okay, color blindness. This square is pretty easy. You're only ever going to get these two. It's not hard to do. However, as I said, if we took all the chromosomes out of an egg and put it into another egg so that we could do this, that's possible. All the children born will be genetically female. And we are within grasp of being able to do that. We've taken chromosomes out of sperm and egg and put them into other things to try and fix certain chromosomal diseases. To take an egg from one mother and to take an egg from another mother, take out the chromosomes from one and put it in there and get a fertilized egg that involved no sperm, entirely possible. No. I mean, they're all just genetically female. What would be, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's half of everybody that's born.
No, that's not real. This has never happened.
We haven't done this yet, but we have taken a chromosome out to fix a chromosomal disease in an egg. So the technique exists. We haven't done it yet. But, give it, another 20 years and maybe we'll be able to buy a kit at Walmart. However, if we try to do that, we get a donor egg. We remove all of the chromosomes. And then we combine the chromosomes from two different sperm in the egg. What is the problem with doing it in this kind of process, having two dads? Why? Because that's fine, genetic female. Whoops, X, Y. Genetic male. Genetic male. There are genes on the X chromosome you need. And they're not just for color vision, but there's a bunch of them for regulation of the sexual reproductive system and your organ health that person, if they were to survive at all, would have very serious, deleterious, painful conditions for the rest of their life, if they were able to develop at all. So this is one of the problems. You somehow have to pick the right ones and make sure that you had these and eliminate any that might be those. Because if you did this, you were deliberately causing a future human to have a lot of harm. So this is one of the dangers of it, which is why they're not rushing to do this right away. Because we have to do it. But if two females, easy. Like at that point, we don't need males. You just have females in a lab, and males become superfluous. Mm-hmm. But why we're talking about chromosomes is because there is so many extra genes on the X. There are what's called sex traits, traits that only exist on the X. And if you have a mutation on that trait, it is different if you're genetically male and genetically female in terms of its effect. You are far more likely, for example, to be colorblind if you are male than if you are female. Because if you are male, you only have one shot at a good gene. And your one shot is on the X chromosome. So that's the quote-unquote good gene. If you're colorblind, I don't want to call it a bad gene. I mean, you're just colorblind. You're not bad. In fact, statistically, squads in World War II were more likely to survive if they had at least one member in the squad that was colorblind. Yeah, why? What type of warfare did they switch from in terms of uniforms in World War II?
Yep. They put out like the toxic stuff.
There was chemical warfare. This didn't help for that.
Oh, yeah.
If you think back to pre-World War II, and say the redcoats lining up, redcoats, named after their red coat, are a fairly easy target.
Yeah, that's right.
World War II, they didn't use redcoats. What did they use? Camo. They invented camouflage, and they hid. If you are colorblind, the world is already camouflaged, and you are very used to having to identify things at the distance by outline and not by color. And so if you're colorblind, it turns out you actually were much better to see through camouflage because you would be looking just as a natural instinct for human shapes over just identifying by color. And so squads that had at least one colorblind member were more likely to survive. Any trait we talk about can have beneficial areas where its usefulness it increases, and it might be why this one has survived for so long. It's not actually all that bad to be colorblind. You might pick a poisonous berry or two when you shouldn't, so there might be deleterious effects. On the other hand, you might be better at recognizing shapes over color, and you might be a good member to have in the community. So even something as harmful as sickle cell anemia turns out to be good if you're living in an area of malaria. Okay. Just to say how I'm labeling these, Trichromate. What? Why are you bothering him? Don't bother him. Trichromate.
I have a question.
Yep.
So wait, if you're colorblind, right? Then wouldn't you not know what the color actually looks like?
I did have a house captain who had no idea he was colorblind until he was grade 12, and that's because he brought home blue and purple things whenever we needed house stuff. And color blindness can exist in a variety of different ways. Some are red-green, some are yellow, I can't remember. And so I'm going to do a very simplified version, like you're just colorblind or not, but there's a whole ton. There are versions in which you can see all the colors, it's just that certain colors are much fainter than others. And so it's harder to tell apart. So there's different levels. But yeah, you may not know until it's been pointed out.
So like if I was colorblind for like, I don't know, like green or something.
For what?
You have
Green.
to.
Would I like just not know what actual green looks like?
The particular house captain I'm thinking of, I asked him, because it turns out he was blue-green,
Yeah.
in addition to his inability to see purple and blue. And he always thought the grass and the sky were different colors because he'd been taught that. So he would look at the sky, that's a blue sky. He knows that's a blue sky. And then he would have the perception inside, like he'd say, obviously those are different
How would you describe
because they're in different contexts. But if you put the colors next to each other, he wouldn't be able to tell them apart. Yeah. I can show you.
If he was like wondering like what does the sky look like, how would you explain that?
You wouldn't necessarily know. You can actually, you yourself can see colors
Yeah.
that currently you can't see. And what I mean by that is that your rods and cones actually do have the ability to see UV light, but all of it is blocked by your lens. People that have had their lens removed for medical reasons, so they can't focus, turns out they can see UV light, and it is a different color than they've ever seen before in their life. So you do have the ability to see it. It's a color that exists that your brain can process, but you've never seen it. So everybody, in a sense, is colorblind to some things. Also,
What color would it
to raise that up a level, when you see sky, you're thinking of a particular color, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know if the color you're thinking of is the same color I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Because your brain could be processing it. You've just learned whatever your brain has filled in a shade, because color doesn't really exist. Your brain just made something up to explain the signal. And everybody's brain may make up a whole different spectrum. And like what I call blue, you might be calling orange. And if you could see through my eyeballs, you'd go, oh, weird, your skies are orange.
Yeah.
We have no idea if we're wired the same in that sense. So in another sense, we have no idea what everybody else says. We just all agree that the sky is blue, and we have all learned to label it consistently.
Also, depending on your language, you see different colors. The ancient Greeks couldn't see blue. They saw the ocean as wine-colored.
The wine-colored sea. And that phrase was specifically referring to like its darkness. In addition, if you are Russian, the Russian language has a different word for like light blue and dark blue. And in tests, they can tell those colors apart faster than English speakers because we don't have a different word. We do have a different word for like orange and yellow and red, and there are languages that don't, and English speakers are better at doing that. Orange is also a new word.
Yellow, red.
Because if someone who has red hair, they don't have red hair. They have orange hair. But we don't call them an orange head. That sounds funny and weird. We call them a redhead because it was named before the word orange existed. There was a hand up over there.
What about like if you took a picture on the phone?
Yeah, how would that help?
No, but like,
If you take a picture on a phone,
is it different?
from what?
Like where you see colors?
No, because you have learned to label that whatever your brain interprets as the sky is blue, right? But if you take a picture, you show it to someone else, their brain has to learn to interpret that wavelength and whatever their brain throws it in. It's not that you two can't agree that that color is blue, it's that you don't know what their brain is presenting their mind as that color. Maybe it's orange, what you would call blue.
That wall is not green.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
if you were to have no eyes,
So it's not green.
what do you see?
if you had,
like, no.
I know what you mean.
If you were blind,
People who were born sighted and become blind do report that they see things, although those that don't try to imagine things over time, it does seem like they might gradually lose it. People that have never seen do not imagine things at a visual time.
Is it black? See out of your
No, it's like
Really?
Yeah, like you don't.
see nothing.
Yeah, but
That's
that's
what's
what
all
I'm still seeing out of my other eye.
I'm still seeing black.
If you have never seen, you would describe the world as you experience it. So you would describe textures and shapes, because that's how you experience it.
But say you
What
could
does
see.
nothing
No, but then
You got a transplant, you removed your eyes, what do you see?
this.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah,
But you have the experience of sight, so you would say I don't see anything. Everything looks black because your brain is used to receiving signals in that part of the brain. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you were born blind,
I like how that makes you feel better.
if you were born blind,
Okay, no. I'm going to move on because now we're getting way too philosophical. I do have to move on. A trichromate means regular color vision.
No, it doesn't.
Dichromate does what?
Classes.
Classes not open.
Yeah, it's at 12 on Wednesdays.
Lies.
It's not a lie. I bet you go-
For homework, I just want you to do the percents. Go through it and see chances of a color blindness. We'll probably finish this off next day and do the lab. You also have a worksheet that you can now pretty much do all of them.
You have a stapler on my last page came off.
Yeah.
Is that working?
Graham, do you not have the worksheet?
probably not.
The worksheet looks like, hold it. Has everybody gotten this worksheet?
Yeah. I have not gotten that work yet.
You now do all of it. You're gonna get a quiz unless you have the worksheet. Yeah. If you did not get a copy, I accidentally printed you a whole extra copy. So there was probably right, you can't. You get it for it. Oh, there you go.
If it was public school, I would.
I must have had that on a day there weren't that many people
What?
here.
What was public school you were?
If it was public school, I wouldn't be going to classes.
Why? They have classes today.
Yeah, but they're lame.
Yeah.
No, they don't teach me anyways.
How would you be going to, what's the local one called?
Kelsey's?
Kelsey, they have regular classes now. They stopped doing their extras.
Yeah.
No, I already gave it to them.
I went to Kelsey 3 years.
I learned less in my 2 years at public school than I learned in my first 2 weeks at Brentwood.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like mention things to my grade 12 friends in public school. Oh, we're doing this in science, and they're like, I have no idea what that is. And I'm like,